hello, everybody. Para family, para friends. And this is your girl, Whitney, from the Association of Paranormal Study. And we are continuing our Get to Know the Speakers series before our Paranormal Research Symposium. And guess what, guys? I hear it coming over the horizon. We are down to a solid week before we get together in Gettysburg on Saturday. Oh, that was probably a bit much. Anyway, seriously, guys, I am so excited about the symposium coming up. It is on Saturday, August 17th, and we have, as you've seen, an amazing group of speakers and presenters and friends joining us, sharing their knowledge. And I think it's just going to be such a positive and fun exchange for all of us. So just to make you all aware, tickets are on sale. They are currently on sale for $50, but just so you know, on the day of the conference, if you come to the conference and buy them at the door, it will go up from $50 to $60. So if you want to save $10, go ahead and go on the website right now, Association of Paranormal Study, all one word, .com. And oh my gosh, it's so exciting. What are you all looking forward to? I actually am wondering. The chat is open, so please leave your comments. Please leave your questions for our wonderful guests tonight. And I'm so excited to be sharing these gentlemen with you. We have two amazing gentlemen who are just going to share this amazing presentation. Low tech, I'm told, but still it's going to be pretty amazing. And maybe you all can decide who or what is the beauty and the beast. I am talking about Joshua Cutchin. I hope I pronounced your name right. Okay, he nodded and says it's fine. Thank God. And Mr. Timothy Renner. So I'm going to bring these gentlemen on the air right now. Joshua and Timothy, welcome.
Hey.
Thanks for having us. It's so good to be here. And there's Tim.
I
was hoping we could coordinate all in one place. Incredibly happy to be here. A great way to spend a Monday night. And thanks for having us. I'm really looking forward to this weekend.
I am looking forward to it too. It is such a pleasure to see you all here. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sharing all that knowledge with us. Timothy, what about you? Are you excited?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. I don't live far from Gettysburg, but I always like an excuse to go there anyway.
Cool. Now, yes, we always have a place that we want an excuse to go to, no matter how close or how far we are.
Oh, yeah.
Excellent. So I do have some of those standard questions, but first, Joshua has a PSA that he would like to deliver. And he will also deliver it towards the end of the speaker show. So Joshua, go ahead.
Okay. If there is anyone who is listening who is in attendance this weekend, it might make my life a little bit easier if you are bringing a laptop that Timothy and I could borrow. So I guess this is primarily directed towards other speakers. We have a very simple presentation. It's just slides, but it would make my life easier rather than bringing my laptop all the way from Georgia. And Tim's a desktop kind of guy. So it might make my life easier. Again, if no one feels comfortable doing that or no one can make that accommodation, that's fine. Totally understand. It's just something that I thought I would throw out there. So if anybody has a laptop that they could part with for 45 minutes at the end of the conference on Saturday, I promise to be a good steward of your technology, and that would really help us out a lot. I'll just have the presentation on a flash drive. Otherwise, I'll just bite the bullet and bring my own laptop. But if anybody can find the generosity to do that, it would be appreciated. I'll buy you a shirt or something.
I feel like we need to start playing In the Arms of
Right.
This is such a touching PS.
I'll make the most pitiful face that I can.
Oh,
Yeah.
Look at that face.
Yeah.
Oh, so that leads me to a question because, guys, the title of your presentation is Beauty and the Beast. So which one of you is the beauty? And
That's a good question. Maybe you should ask our wives that, right, Tim?
Yeah, maybe. I'll tell you, I was up at Pine Ridge Reservation collecting Bigfoot stories recently.
Ooh.
And I was I met a very, very wise woman there, and she was talking to me about Bigfoot. And she had some experiences, and she said, "Oh, you're looking for Bigfoot, are you?" I said, "Yes." And she said, "Well, you kind of look like Bigfoot, so maybe I am the beast."
Fair enough.
In that case, the beast has a very silky head of hair. I must say, I am jealous.
Oh, thank you.
I am jealous. So does that mean you're the beauty, Joshua?
I guess it does, and I'm completely comfortable with that. Yeah.
All right. Excellent. Well, now that we got that out of the way, because I'm nothing if not a hard-hitting interrogator of things and stuff. It's been a long day. So obviously, this is a chance for our audience to kind of get to know you a little bit better. So let's start with you, Joshua. How did you get started in this amorphous blob called the paranormal?
It is an amorphous blob, especially in the sense that once it gets its tentacles around you, it kind of consumes you, doesn't it?
Hail Cthulhu!
Yeah. I grew up in a very open household in terms of, not shunning these things or, just letting me be interested in these things. So I'd always carried this with me, this interest for a while before I decided to completely ruin my reputation and jump into the field of the paranormal. So I always had an interest in a lot of different things. But I do have to say that my first and abiding interest was always Bigfoot. And I distinctly remember my sister-in-law got me an Amazon gift card way back when. This would have been 2014 or so. And I picked up a copy of J. Robert Alley's Raincoast Sasquatch because, I was indulging myself. It had been a while since I'd gotten a Bigfoot book. And I'll never forget that in that book, he mentions that there was a tribe in Alaska whose Bigfoot, their version of Bigfoot, the Bequas, would offer you dried salmon. And it was actually not dried salmon. It was, tree bark that was disguised or beglamoured, to use sort of a fey folk term, to appear like dried salmon. And if you were to accept the food from the Bequas, you'd be trapped with the Bequas forever. And I said, hang on a minute, that sounds a lot like Western European
fairy.
Yeah, exactly. So that set me down the path that I'm on today, which is I think of myself as a paranormalist. I love mixing chocolate in my peanut butter. I love mixing all sorts of different things together. And so that was sort of my own personal path. And now we're something like 7 or so books in, and I'm still doing it. At some point, I guess probably 2018 or so, 2017, I met this ne'er-do-well.
Oh.
And he roped me into a Bigfoot project that has probably been one of our most popular titles that either of us have done. So I guess I'll pass the baton to Timothy here.
Yeah, Timothy, over to you. Go for it.
Oh, same question.
Yeah.
Wow. So I grew up in what I like to call the golden age of Bigfoot. I mean, I was born a few years after the Patterson-Gimlin film was filmed. And I grew up with In Search of and Legend of Boggy Creek and all these great, pop culture things. Bigfoot was on The $6 Million Man. Bigfoot was everywhere in the 70s. Yeah. And I loved it. I love that stuff. And I put away. I mean, I always loved folklore too. I didn't know it was folklore. But I would want to know where are the ghost stories around. And if someone would tell me, I would bug my parents to take me there, even though if there was nothing to see, it didn't matter. I just wanted to go to the place where the ghost story was. So I was always fascinated in this folklore, although I wouldn't have known what it was called back then. As I grew older, I fall out of that stuff, and girls and punk rock come into my life, and I put all that away. And at some point when I was older, I think it was probably even right around the time I had kids. I'm a little more settled down, and one day I just typed on the internet, I kind of forgotten about Bigfoot, and I just kind of started looking up Bigfoot stuff.
But Bigfoot didn't forget about you.
Apparently not. things kept going just because I wasn't following it. They kept going, and then I was just floored and fascinated, and started this journey, which I'm still on, and at this point, it's become a literal journey. I for whatever it's worth, I like to call myself a paranormal explorer. I like to go to places where this stuff happens. I still do, and see what can be seen, and sometimes experience stuff while I'm there. It's interesting, the project, the very first project Josh and I worked on together, has become my life's work. It's a story called The Witch Diggers, and it has really filled my life at this point. It's going forward. It's going to be a major thing, and it does involve Bigfoot. It absolutely involves Bigfoot. It's a very, very paranormal Bigfoot thing that started in the late 1800s and continues today.
Can you tell us a little bit more about this project? It sounds so fun.
Well, this is a story that I came upon randomly in a newspaper in the late 1800s, and it's a family that was basically being haunted by paranormal things. One of which happened to be, they didn't use the term Bigfoot back then. They called them monkeys with human heads, and they were climbing through the windows of their farmhouse. But they're also talking about witches looking through the window. Again, connecting this Beauty and the Beast thing. This, women that accompany Bigfoot. They were talking about many, many strange things, and it seemed like it was one of these instances where the family kind of went crazy. They were kind of driven insane by the stuff. And I did the original story with Josh, and we did commentary on it because there's much to comment on in this story. And for years, thought I really want to do something more with this story. Last summer, I was talking to my friend, the friend who had actually accompanied me on this trip, and I said, "Man, I really want to do something more with that story. I don't know what it's going to be. It takes place in Indiana, so maybe we should just go to Indiana and look around." And within a week of that, I got an email when the subject title was Witch Diggers, and it was people who live on the property. And they said, "Hey, we live on the property where that happened, and we're still having activity today." And I emailed back right away and didn't get a reply for maybe another 2 weeks. And I went, and my podcast is called Strange Familiars, and we have a Discord, and we have a prayer and intention section in that Discord where people ask for help. Hey, my mom's sick. Can you send prayers or good thoughts, et cetera, et cetera. So I went there and I said, "Hey, this isn't, nobody's sick. This isn't like life and death at all, but here's what I'd like. I'd like these people to contact me. I'd like them to tell me their story. I'd like them to come on the podcast, and I'd like access to the property." And within 2 weeks of asking for that, I got another email from a different person that said, "Hey, we live across from that property. We're still experiencing activity today. We'd like to talk to you." They talked to me. They ended up inviting me down. I went down there and for about a week and experienced the most intense and incredible paranormal stuff over and over again for about a week. And at some point, we will tell the story, and we are working on it. I think we are gonna tell it live. It will be Strange Familiars Live, and we will bring that story to everyone. But as far as I know, it continues, and we were going back again in October. So it's amazing, and it's really, it'll be a book as well. I will write a book on this because there's so much there. I would take the whole interview if I told everything, but it will be coming, and we will tell the whole story on at Strange Familiars Live sometime in the future.
Great to know. Hey, it sounds like, it sounds like it's got some similarities with the amount of different diverse types of paranormal activity. It sounds a little bit on the realm of Skinwalker Ranch or the Hopkinsville Goblins. It sounds like
it's due north of Hopkinsville. I will say that.
Wow.
Not terribly far away. So
fascinating. And Joshua, you're just along for the ride, huh?
Yeah, I'm just along. I've not been to the site yet, but hopefully someday in the future. But it does. There are certain things that I will read, or I'm sure it's the same for Tim, where we'll read this and we're like, oh, Tim would really love this, or Tim will read something and be like, oh, Josh will really love it. And usually it does involve, like you alluded to, that sort of crossing of the streams of these different things. And that was sort of the genesis for the project Where the Footprints End, volumes 1 and 2 that we released in 2020. sometime probably in 2018. I was actually looking to take a break from writing books, but Tim, I'll never forget. I was actually at the beach, and I think you were texting me, Tim, and it was something like, "Hey, let's write the definitive."
I was like, "Hey, Josh."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, who can resist? But he had texted me and was like, "Hey, let's write the definitive weird Bigfoot book," and I was like, "Okay." So I ended up joining, and the friendship was strained at some points, but I think that's what happens whenever you get passionate people involved. I was going through a lot personally, and
it was it's passion, and it's things that we're both excited about, and we both wanted the best product, the best book at the end of it. And I think, and we had some fights, but we're brothers, we're gonna fight. That's the way I put it. Like we are absolutely brothers. We will fight and we will hug afterwards, and it will be fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's sort of since we're doing the kumbaya moment here, I think that's something that Tim and I have really fallen into as a real rapport. Like, I can say things to Tim, and he won't take them the wrong way. He'll know what I mean, and we'll sort of come out the other side stronger for it. So, but yeah, so Where the Footprints in Volume 1 and Volume 2. I think we're both really proud of that book. But one of the central points in that book was a moment when Tim came to me, and I thought he was absolutely crazy because he said to me, "Hey, Josh, have you ever noticed that sightings of Bigfoot go hand in hand with sightings of women in white?"
And here is the crux of your presentation for the Paranormal Research Symposium.
So yeah, if I had to distill the best contributions of Where the Footprints End, I think my title is the best thing that I offered, Where the Footprints End. It's really good. But also Tim's connection that he made in that just sort of out of left field statement was sort of mind-boggling, because I think of women in white, and I think of those. It really is sort of an archetypal subclass of hauntings, right? Like you have, it's a recurring theme. It's some people might, in my opinion, read the phenomenon the wrong way and just say, "Oh, it's an urban legend of a woman in white," right? Because it's such a recurring motif. But
you hear it a lot.
But the way that Tim and I think is in terms of Jungian archetypes and the blurring of fact and fiction sometimes in these realms. But even knowing how weird Tim was, he said that to me, and I was like, I don't see any evidence for that. And slowly over time, he provided some examples. I started looking, and I found some stuff, and in a lot of ways, that chapter of ours ended up being one of the more collaborative. Although, to my dying day, I will say that chapter in the book was Tim's baby. But it's also the gift that keeps on giving. I mean, years later, we could probably write a whole book dedicated to further things that we've thought about and pulled apart and examined. So the presentation is in part sort of just a chance for us to sort of bring these ideas to a new audience and really upend the tables of cryptozoology.
Cool.
Yeah, Tim, I've monopolized the conversation enough.
No.
Speak now.
I still get people that email me. It used to be, maybe every other week. It's slowed down, but I still get people that email me maybe once a month, maybe once every other month or something, with another example of Bigfoot with women in white. Like it just, like Josh said, it's just the gift that keeps on giving. It's stunning.
So in one sense, it's a hard sell, right? Because these things seem so absolutely separate.
Yeah.
But after seeing, there's certain layers, I guess, certain strata of the way that this manifests, and the easiest way to see it really is to take a look at, just horror films and such. I mean, you think about King Kong and Fay Wray, right?
Off the bat, King Kong.
And if you just do a search for those old, I think Murders in the Rue Morgue, doesn't that have a gorilla
that's grabbing
that grabs a woman wearing a white dress, and that's sort of the top stratum of how this manifests. But over time, you find it in folklore, a ton of stuff about it in folklore. That's a major portion of what we're talking about. And also, much to my surprise, you do find contemporary reports, including some of the most famous Bigfoot reports. There is a connection to this woman in white archetype in the Ape Canyon incident, which you might have heard of. It's one of the more popular Bigfoot stories that's out there. But there's the Ape Canyon. There's the Ape Canyon as it happened from our only source on Ape Canyon, and then there's the Ape Canyon that you know those little strips of paper that they used to put over toilets in motels that said sanitized for your protection.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
Yeah. There's that version of Ape Canyon too, right? There's version that strips out all the weird stuff in order to make it more palatable to a cryptozoological audience. And what I think Tim really opened my eyes to throughout the course of the project, of which this is a microcosm, is just how weird Bigfoot really can be. I still held on to the hope that maybe we were dealing with a relict primate, but it gets stranger the more and more you look, right, Tim?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So, wow, Joshua, you've just been telling us about how Timothy's blown your mind. Timothy, what are some ways that Joshua's blown your mind?
I have never met someone whose taste for research matches my own, and possibly even excels it. That's hard for me to say. I am very proud of my research. Josh is a deep researcher, and I knew that, and I knew the way he makes connections was similar to the way I make connections. I think the way we express them is individual. It's different for each of us, but the way we make connections are similar, and that's why I knew I was like, okay, I can work with this guy, and I knew I needed help when I started. I had this project, I had this idea, and I brought it to Josh, and he's like. Josh immediately kind of hammered it into shape. He's like, let's do it like this. And he had an idea for how to present it, which mine would have been a chaotic mess if we did it my way. He was absolutely right on that. He was insistent that we use footnotes, which Josh is well known for his footnotes. He's very proud of his footnotes. And he should be. He should be, because they're excellent. But he insisted we do it that way. And I was like, Josh, come on. And I did it. And it wasn't until it was published that I went, oh, yeah, that was absolutely the right way to do it. And so he has a foresight for that, for the way to present this stuff that is excellent, and also he's just a heck of a writer. And I'm just very, very happy to be associated with Josh on any level, especially with these books, which have been amazing. Just again, a huge part of my life, which is connected to Witch Diggers, because like I said, that's the first project Josh and I ever did together. That in a way that led to this too, to the Where the Footprints End as well. And I keep saying that, who knows what I write in the future, but I think whenever I go, I think that this is going to be the one that people remember me by. So I couldn't have done it without Josh. Literally, I couldn't have done it.
Oh, such a love fest. Aw. And this is what this is all about. Just sharing each other's love and
when I say he's my brother, I literally mean that. He is. Yeah. We've been through it and out the other side, and I just I love the guy and I love our friendship, and we've seen each other since we've
So I have to plug a friend of mine. Are you familiar with a writer named Betsy Kulikowski?
I am not.
In Oklahoma.
The name is familiar.
She writes the Veritas Codex series. And it's very Bigfoot cool stuff in there. So to plug my good friend, who is a huge Bigfoot person too, I'm going to plug Betsy Kulikowski's The Veritas Codex series and get her books. And I am definitely going to find a way to tape your presentations.
That's fine by us. Fine by us. Yeah.
So as we're talking about things that we hope people learn from each other at the symposium, what is something that you hope people will take away from Beauties and the Beast?
It's kind of funny. When Tim and I were putting together blurbs, finding the blurbers for your book, we both had a pie in the sky idea that we would love to have Patrick Harper do a blurb for our book. And Patrick Harper is the author of Daemonic Reality, which is kind of a major, it is a major touchstone for the way that I view these phenomena. And I remember Patrick agreed, much to our delight, but I'll never forget, he said, so, what is your thesis, Joshua? Or something like that. British yeoman. And I said, the Bigfoot's weird. So maybe that is, is the main takeaway. How do I put this delicately? I get very frustrated. I don't want to speak for Tim, although I feel he'll sympathize. I get very frustrated with certain disciplines in the paranormal that have been doing the same thing for upwards of 7, 8, 9, 20 decades, and not really arriving at any more concrete truths. And in the meantime, I always say, well, what if you just looked at this in a different way, right? You might not be any closer to an objective truth, but you might gain some additional insight. And, part of what draws me to the paranormal in general is, let's say all of this stuff is just nonsense. Again, that's not my position. I don't feel that way, but let's say that it is. At the very least, you're learning a lot about the way that we engage with the unknown. You're learning a lot about human beings, as a species. And so I think that, I could look at Bigfoot from the angle of, Bigfoot and tennis shoes. Let's say that there's a collection of Bigfoot and tennis shoes stories out there. I still think it would be a worthwhile thing to do, because I suspect that there would be some sort of insight that you would get to along the way. So for me, I'll let Tim speak for himself, but for me, it would be to break people out of the restriction that Bigfoot has to be a flesh and blood creature or it's nothing. Like that's the binary that we're always sort of presented with, right? This is a third path. It's like, well, the skeptics are right about a lot of stuff, but we've talked to people who have seen things and are very clearly knowledgeable enough to know what they're describing, honest people. Like, so how do you reconcile those two things? And this is that third path that I think sort of emerges. Tim?
There is, in the paranormal in general, and this applies to Bigfoot, ghosts, UFOs, etc. I've likened it recently to comfort food, and people go to it much like they do for true crime, for instance. People who listen to true crime stories, they don't want to be murdered, but they're interested in these stories, right? They're interested in these stories, and it's exciting, and it's actually a little bit scary. I think it's very similar with the paranormal, and it's comfort food in most instances. They like hearing about the same reports that people have been talking about for 50 years. They like hearing about the same evidence that people have been talking about for 50 years. They like the idea that, maybe this thing could be put in a cage. Wouldn't that be neat one day? And then we can, all the people that make fun of me for liking this, then I can point to them and say, see, I was right. They like the idea that, but it ends up being comfort food. And there's not a lot of nutrition there because they're doing the same thing and they're going to it for the same thing and the same thing. And how often can you go to something for the same thing and get anything out of it? It's been sucked dry. And you have to, we do talk about a lot of old reports in the book, absolutely, because when you get down to it, especially if you get to the original sources for this stuff that haven't been what I call weird washed, they haven't been taking all the strangeness out of them. You find this stuff. You go, wait. There's something very strange about this.
Right.
Like this has been presented to us as a very normal thing, like a very normal animal. But when you dig down, you say, well, wait, what about this, and this? That's a very strange aspect of this story. Can we dig into that? And look, I don't know that I'm right. I could be wrong, but it's kind of like what Josh says, like, let's just change the camera angle and maybe look at some of these other things and maybe let's try to not talk about it the same way. And it is frustrating sometimes because, and some of the straighter, cryptozoology conferences don't invite us to speak because we're not doing comfort food. We're not going to do it,
And I've run into Alex on a few of my paranormal conference circuit rounds, and
he was very excited that you guys are coming.
Yeah, and Alex is just so kind, and I knew that Alex would foster a space that would be open-minded and inclusive for ideas like this. So I'm incredibly grateful to her to have this opportunity to present this because I think it's so funny. I'm familiar with all the material that we're talking about, obviously, but it's just so refreshing to see it in a new way and to think about delivering it to people who maybe haven't heard about this particular possibility. And that's just it's so exciting to sort of get that sort of thrill of just sharing something that you love and something that you're really intensely interested in with new people. I was
I was actually hoping she would allow me to play Dungeons and Dragons at the conference.
That would be cool. Hey, I've been to
Next time.
I've been to plenty of conferences where they have a gaming room. So yeah, maybe next time. Yeah.
Next time. But anyway, just so you know, John Sable said that he was in Boggy Creek back in 1973, and he had some very interesting experiences. And I hope John will be able to share those with you guys.
I would
And
love to
yes,
hear.
he's bringing his laptop.
John, first of all, number one, thank you. Number two, I will find some way to show my appreciation. And number three, would love to hear about things that happened in Arkansas. That sounds so interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you're in Georgia, is that right, Joshua?
Yes.
And Timothy, you're just outside of Gettysburg.
Yeah, York County.
Yeah. So since we're all going to be in Gettysburg in a matter of days, what is it about Gettysburg for you guys?
Gettysburg, I always tell people, visit Gettysburg for the history and do the history during the day.
Mm-hmm.
But stay to the night, because Gettysburg is there's a reason why there is a ghost economy in Gettysburg, right? And some of it is, they're making money, right? They're doing tours, they're making money, but there's a reason it's there. And I truly believe Gettysburg is a very, very special place. If you're interested, I'm interested in history and the paranormal. I love history and the paranormal. So for me, it's like, just a wonderful place to be. I get excited every time I go there. So, don't miss the history. Don't forget about that. It's a very, very important history that happened there, and it's wonderful to learn that. But stay for the night. Stay around. It's the atmosphere changes a bit. It's a very, very interesting place. I really, really love it. Always have since I was a little kid. Always loved it.
Oh.
Well, this will only be my second visit ever to Gettysburg, and my first, and I believe I would have to say probably 20-ish years. So obviously long before I really was as engaged as I am now with these topics. So I'm really looking forward to seeing it with new eyes, because I don't think this gets discussed too often, but since we're in the mood of talking about different angles and weird things, there is an argument to be made, which we will be addressing a little bit in our presentation, that Gettysburg is sort of another window area, quite frankly.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, because it's not just ghosts. There's other strange stuff there too.
I have to plug one of my other books. Is called
Yes.
The Witch Cloud, which is written about 2 haunted bridges right there in Gettysburg, and kind of not in as a deep way as we did with Bigfoot, but I do kind of look at the ghost thing and say, hey, let's flip this on its head a little bit and think what else this could be. So I have a Gettysburg book as well.
Ooh.
It's great.
So, okay, if you could, so Timothy, because you are more or less a Gettysburg local, what is one thing that you think anyone that's attending the conference or anyone that's just coming to visit Gettysburg or what have you, what is one good place to eat and one other fun thing they can do while they're there?
Oh my goodness. There's a South America, I think it's an Ecuadorian restaurant called Blessing.
I love Ecuadorian food.
Blessing is fantastic, and I love it very much. And they're every meal I've ever had there has just been fantastic. So go to Blessing for sure.
Go to Blessing.
And what was the other question? Eat and then
anything fun that somebody has to take advantage of.
Oh, I mean, certainly make sure to see the battlefield. Devil's Den is everyone's favorite because it's just a wonderful looking place, like the rocks, and it's still my favorite. I just love it. It's still my favorite. I've been there a million times. Still my favorite place on the battlefield. It's so neat to you can get in the rocks and you could see where the Confederates were, and you could see where they were. The Northerns were up on Little Round Top up there, and you can see that and you see where they were, where the battle itself happened. I believe they've opened up. I think it was Little Round Top. If I'm saying the wrong thing, Gettysburg people are going to be mad at me. But they've reopened the area, the whole area. They had parts of it closed down, so you can actually sort of almost do the walk or the charge if you want.
Wow.
that the soldiers had made from Devil's Den up the hill, and see how impossible that would have been, and how dangerous that would have been at
I'm
the
not
time.
running.
Yeah. But you can really get a good sense of like the battle there, of what was happening, and of course people to this day. And I've seen some. I'm not one for video evidence. I think it's almost a folly to try to capture it, but I am fascinated by it when people do capture it. And there's been some really interesting video evidence captured right near Devil's Den. I think they call the area the Triangle Field, of not just one, but groups of soldiers, like groups and groups of that very interesting. Very, I'm not a film guy. I'm not an expert on that by any means, but I look at that and I go, oh wow, that looks very interesting. So it's just a really interesting place. And all, but yeah, so you get right there, you get the history and the ghosts right together.
I should have planned to stay for a week. I'm just coming up for the weekend, and I should have planned to extend my stay. Oh well.
Yeah, I feel the same way. My PTO won't allow me.
yeah, duty calls, right?
Well, I actually plan on leaving very early Friday morning, and I'm just gonna drive on up there and just spend the day before everybody else starts trickling in. That'll be fun. That'll be good. So where can people find y'all's books?
Well, we should have copies of Where the Footprints End available for sale. We did. I did sign us up for a table. Thanks, Alex, for putting that together.
Yes, thank you, Alex.
Otherwise, we have a whole passel of books at our own disposal to give out. And you can contact us directly. I offer signed copies of all my books at no extra charge, including Where the Footprints End. And my website is joshuacutchin.com. That's JOSHUACUTCHIN.com. Just one cut chin, no S. Okay. JoshuaCutchin.com. Yeah.
I am putting that.
So best place to find everything I do is at strangefamiliars.com. That's my podcast, but you can find links to everything I do there, my books, and I'm an illustrator as well. So you can find
cool. Yeah, Timothy. If anybody looks at the covers of Where the Footprints End, Timothy did the drawings for those, and I love Tim's artwork. The physical copies of Where the Footprints End also include spot illustrations by Timothy, so it just ends up being this lovely artifact in addition to being
cool.
Fun book. Yeah.
That book. I did a frontispiece for each volume. So yeah, I didn't want to heavily illustrate it because I really didn't want to take away from the information, and so I did, but I did. There's a few illustrations throughout. My other books are a little more illustration heavy, but I think Where the Footprints End called for being presented in the way that it did. I think too many illustrations might have taken away from the information. Because illustration ends up becoming my interpretation, right?
But the illustrations are so good.
Awesome. So yeah, strangefamiliars.com. That's you find everything me there.
Yay! Fantastic.
And of course, all of our books, Josh's books that he writes without me, my books that I write without Josh, and our books that we've written together are on Amazon too.
Amazon, the great Bezos warehouse in the sky. But
now that I don't have to bring a laptop, I may be able to cram some copies of my other stuff into my suitcase. We'll see. Yeah.
Once again, thank you, John, for your kindness in responding to Joshua's PSA.
Absolutely.
John also says that he had a Wendigo experience below Little Round Top.
Yeah, I have my eyes locked on that right now, and I will bring a little recorder with me. And if he's willing to have these stories recorded, I would love to actually record them and document.
Yeah, I have to say that there's a couple of other projects that Tim and I have been kicking back and forth for the future, and that might be very pertinent to at least one of them. So we'd love to hear that.
And then Jim Brown says that he can definitely recommend the Triangle Field area.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it looks like we've got some fun stuff to see and fun stuff to do and fun things to eat. Well, yeah. And I think this is just going to be such an exciting. Is there anything in particular you guys are looking forward to at the conference?
Every time I go to one of these things, I I just had this experience at another conference down here that was actually really quite local. But every time it's the stuff that I think I'm looking forward to is not necessarily as good as the stuff that I just get blindsided by. Like I'll be like, okay, I'll go to this presentation. This kind of sounds interesting. And then I'll have something that just completely opens me up to an entire new way of looking at things. So that's what I'm looking forward to is just the unexpectedness of it all. I'm really looking forward to that.
Since I am the beast we've established and Josh is the beauty, I'm looking forward to the dress he will wear to the conference. And I'm not looking forward to having to carry him on stage as if he's my bride. No. Yeah. I love this stuff. I can't get away from it. This is my life, and I love it. And even the people I disagree with, like I'm a little bit hard on flesh and blood folks sometimes, but I love them. Like I love the whole thing. I love, as long as they're willing to hear me out, I'll hear them out. We can be,
coexist.
Yeah, exactly. We
coexist and be respectful and all those things.
Exactly. And I love that side of it too. I just fall on the other side. That's all there is about it. So I love every aspect of it. So I will look forward to just hearing all these theories and talking to other people who are just as passionate about it as I am. That's fuel. That's something I can take home. And like I said, this is my life. So you just adding fuel to me, and we can go from there.
So let's continue adding fuel to this amazing life and this amazing passion that we all have. We all have something to share. We all have something to learn from each other. And we are getting there on Friday or Saturday, depending. Raul Torres asked who's going to be there on Friday evening. Raul, I can definitely tell you that I will be there. There is going to be quite a few people that are setting up, and we'll all just be walking around. And John Sable also said that he is willing to take you to the area if you're interested.
Keeps getting better and better.
Yeah,
John, it sounds like an adventure. I might even spray some extra bug spray on me and actually join you guys.
Well, just so everybody knows, they've changed. They used to be able to be on the battlefield till 11, then they changed it to 10, and now it's nightfall. You got to be out by dark off the battlefield.
All right. Well, yeah.
But there are places to go. There are places to go at night. If you want haunty stuff, there's still places you can go.
There are
the
definitely
bridges I wrote about in that book.
Legally, guys. Legally.
Yeah, I still have to get together, Tim. I still have to get together with you and figure out our schedule. But I'm just trying to get all my things done here before I leave. So it's rapidly approaching. That's what I realized.
We will be there Friday, though, right?
Yes.
We're going over Friday.
All right. Well, we can't wait to see you then. We are going to have such a great time. And once again, folks, you can find all things related to Timothy on strangefamiliars.com. And you can find all things Joshua on joshuacutchin.com. And it's Cutchin.
That's correct.
There you go. And this presentation, Beauties and the Beast, sounds like it's going to be amazing. And where I think we're going to throw up that ticket banner one last time. So remember, folks, tickets are still on sale for $50. If you come the day of the symposium, it will go up to $60. So if you want to save $10, go ahead and get your tickets now. It's going to be a great time. These guys are going to be there. We have we've got people from all across the country. We're all just going to have a great time. So any final words?
Thank you for having us on. Thank you. I love talking about this. So it's not it's a pleasure for me to be.
Dude, I want you guys on my podcast.
Let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're happy to do it.
We'll talk at the symposium. And on that lovely note, my good paranormal friends, para family, para friends all across the country, I've been Whitney from APS, and this has been Joshua Cutchin and Timothy Renner, and we will see you at the symposium on Saturday. So on that happy note, thanks everyone. Gentlemen, thanks again, and have a wonderful night. Bye, everyone.